you. Hi, everyone. This is Artie from Human Chapters. I'll tell you a little bit about Human Chapters. Humans are living narratives with a past, present, and future. These narratives constitute of a number of chapters across a lifespan. The aim of these conversations is to highlight a chapter of the narrative and unpack its connections to other chapters. I don't care whether people are natural storytellers, but I truly do believe each one of us has a story to tell. An acknowledgement to country. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are. We pay respect to their tribal elders, past and present and emerging. We celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. And today, our human chapter is going to be Tom, and his chapter is titled My Ancestors Aren't Happy with Me. Off to you, Tom. Thank you very
Amazing.
much. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Artie.
That's right.
But yeah, thanks for having me on. My name's Thomas. This whole project started in the beginning of this lockdown when I had ample time to just sit and do nothing. I'm in engineering, so I work down in Melbourne making server rackings for local businesses as well as international clientele.
Yeah.
They specifically got me in the operating one of the turrets, which is like one of two people in charge of manufacturing for the whole factory.
Wow.
So it's a bigger role than I anticipated they'd have me in, but it's what can you do?
Yeah.
You you grow into it, I guess. But yeah, I've got a background in engineering. I did my apprenticeship in heavy metal fabrication when I dropped out of high school, and just went from there. Continued it, didn't quite finish my apprenticeship. I did it until my brother graduated, just supporting the family, and then once everyone's grown, I decided to take a trip, a holiday of sorts. Disappeared overseas for I think 6 months. Went to London for a month. Spent most of my time in California.
Wow.
And just when mom calls, you come back home, get back to business. But yeah, that trip was the main trigger for me. It allowed me to experience photography, which I fell in love with, and I did some more research, and you can make money off of it. So I'm like, all right, let's study this. So I knew I had to have a design background going into photography. So I entered into the local TAFE over there in Shep, studied graphic design. I don't think I finished. I finished the cert 4, and then applied for RMIT down in Melbourne for photography diploma.
Yeah.
Did 3 years of it. It wasn't quite what I was expecting or what I was looking for.
Yeah.
It was catered towards kids coming straight out of high school who didn't know anything about photography.
Wow.
So I was over prepared and just sleeping through most of the classes. But yeah, I just dropped out. I had to start making some money off of my education. So I started doing menswear photography for a local store, Joe Paul Menswear. I did the branding or the logo for them when they took over the business.
Yeah.
They've allowed me to experiment with my techniques and my style in photography. And just went from there. I've been shooting a lot of weddings, and I finished up, I think, beginning of this year.
Yeah.
Just it's more word of mouth with my clientele, and it's just what I can handle and who I choose to work with. So it's more personal to me. While shooting all that commercials helps to pay the bills, it wasn't quite for me. I was more interested in expressing myself in the artistic side, not the commercial area. So I still have, it just didn't work out for me. I felt like it wasn't working out for me and just catering to my needs.
Sure.
So I love drawing, I love painting, and I've always wanted to use a brush on canvas and just see what happens.
Yeah.
But it went from there. I got time in the lockdown and just started picking up canvases and going from there. And it's been a in-depth exploration of self, really. It's a visual diary for me, is how I like to explain it. So it's like whatever stresses me during the week or during the month or whatever it seems to be, put it down on canvas. Think about what could be the issues, and then once I feel it's finished, I sit back and evaluate and just go through what that session entailed, or what it required of me to address. And it turns out I'm pretty good at painting. I'm not a painter by nature, but I did graphic design, so I know how to use colors and shapes and composition when it comes to photography. So it was just like, yeah. And I study psychology on the side, the behavioral psychology and child development. So it's just something that interests me and what I need for the future. So this self-evaluation came from that. But yeah, that's long, but yeah, that's me.
That is beautiful. So what I'll do is I'll backtrack a little bit to
Easy. Yeah.
the 6 months of your travel.
Yeah.
It started there. What is this or like what was the discovery within your travels?
All right. So straight out of school, I think year 10, 14 or 15, left Shep, went up to Darwin to start my apprenticeship. That's basically entering the adult world out the gates. No peers around you, just all, it's like a super male dominated industry, and it's just like macho. I don't know. Yeah. It was had to grow into it pretty quick. So I was putting up, I think, 6-story buildings at a time, like warehouses, welding them in store, delivering, putting them out. We got defense contracts. So I was in there like early on. So my career path was based around that kind of industry, which was more hands-on, manual labor, orientated, and it's closed off view of what my possibilities could have been. Yeah. So this holiday, my mate, I think his name's Jack Hawkins, or that's what he uses for his professional business, but he's the one that did photography, and closely related to, or I've followed his work. And it just inspired me. It's like, this guy is the same age as me. He's doing what he wants. He's doing something that's out of what I'm used to. Yeah. And it could be an option for me. So once I got the time to breathe and just reevaluate what I was doing, I got into photography while I was traveling, just shooting anything and everything that I could. Yeah. Architecture, people, shooting street in London, just taking the tube and just going into like the busiest places, just shooting everything. Yeah. And it's a different feeling when you're a tourist. You become more outgoing. Like it's weird, but you start being more adventurous. And I just went to a lot of museums there in London, like the main ones, and then over to California. I spent a week in LA. I drove from California to LA.
Oh wow.
And that was an experience and a half. But yeah, just seeing the density of people and just knowing there's a bigger world out there than what you've experienced so far in the country town of Shep and rural areas that I grew up in. So that changed my perspective. And it just gave me another option. Like I didn't have as much responsibility anymore, so I could pursue those avenues.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
That's amazing. And when you were on your travels, obviously getting out of your comfort zone, becoming more sort of overt in your personality, did you have light bulb moments, whether it's through the lens or away from the lens?
I think in the galleries, just viewing these works up close, like I've read them in the books, I've seen them through pictures, but actually being there and seeing all the details and what you've read up on, these little tricks that they had, you can actually point them out. Like like I said, it changed my mentality to what I could be doing.
Yeah.
So instead of boxing me in, I've got options now.
Yes.
Reevaluate and figure out how to get to this position that you want to get to. So that's
Yeah.
basically what happened.
Okay, so that was the travels. Tom, have you always been in Shepparton, grown up? Um,
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think early 2000s. We moved to Marupana.
mhm,
Grew up around there, the golf course area, around Shepparton North, uh, middle of Shep, and
yeah,
then Tachura, which I'm currently at now, or which I was.
yeah,
But yeah, I grew up there and then went off to Darwin. Um, did all my work up there, Brisbane,
yeah.
Sydney area, and then currently down in Melbourne, working. Finished up my study. But yeah,
Amazing.
that's about it.
And so what happened during COVID? You talked about this art project. Take us through that bit of that journey.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I've been in Australia. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it, but I was born in Papua New Guinea, which is where I originate from. I grew up to about, I think, 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
So an age where I could still understand the environment I was raised in. And then we moved to Australia around 98, 99.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Australia and in the Western culture. So I knew, started to understand the different structures of these environments that I was exposed to and I was raised in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a trip. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
No.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Tell us more about that sort of. You understood the Papua New Guinea environment. You were 4 or 5 years old before you moved to Australia. What is,
Yeah,
yeah, what are some of the key things COVID brought up in that distinction and yeah, culture and identity?
yeah. So there was a disconnect growing up. I was raised around Papua New Guinean people, but never with them.
Okay.
So most of my exposure to that culture came from them in the Western culture that I was raised in.
Hmm.
But from what I could remember, is just like I was born in the village in the jungle, grass huts. I ran around like butt naked most of the time.
Yeah.
Went caught fish if I needed to, cooked it up if I wanted to, found a pan, just cooked up some eggs that I stole. It was like village living that still made strong memories for me. So retaining that and then growing up in this environment where everything's structured, everything's, well, yeah, structured.
Yeah.
Just makes an impression on you and your development as you grow up. You understand where you come from, you know where you're growing up in, and it's like, yeah, okay, where do I fit in? Where am I going? What do I do here? But yeah, sorry, like your question before, the lockdown happened. We were supposed to go back as a family to PNG to reconnect.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, once everything went into lockdown, the plans went down the as they say. So yeah, I had to reevaluate, and I was also dragging my feet, organizing all the papers, and it was like more subconscious
Yeah.
of like, this is something that's going to be huge, and I'm just like, how do I deal with this? They haven't seen me, I haven't seen them in like close to 2 decades, and so I'm a stranger.
Yeah.
But they've heard stories about me, and it's like, how do you live up to that, and how do you reintroduce yourself to the family
Yeah.
without being an outsider or feeling like an outsider? So that went down. All the paperwork I was organizing just on hold, and yeah, the work just focused on work.
Yeah.
And a couple, I think, first month in, it was just like mundane: sleep, wake up, go to work, repeat.
Mm.
And I'm just like, nah, I gotta do something creative. So I started painting to experience that side of the creative field, and then went into psychology as well. When it clicked, I'm like, oh, there's imagery in this that represents something that I'm not addressing. So I can see what's happening. Let's fix that. And then slowly started to work through all the stresses that I was going through. And it helped a lot. So that's what the painting, that's how the painting came about. It's just an inability to act on
Mm.
what I was supposed to.
Wow. And I just remember the exhibition.
No, thank you for coming.
And I, yeah, being a speech pathologist, there are some ironic times where I go, wow, I can't express what I actually feel, but I've got to say it was such a cathartic experience.
Yeah,
And you felt those emotions, they're in the painting, but it was like they came to life and you're going
yeah, no,
through,
thank you.
yeah. Um, and so reflecting on that particular observation or whatever it was, what are some of those stresses that you're talking about, or those emotions? What was going through your brain as you were painting stuff, or what came up for you that you didn't realize?
Yeah, no, it's like there's a tremendous amount of pressure that you either choose to take on or challenge. But
Mm,
for me, it was like we're the first generation in our family to leave the country,
yeah,
to leave that forest area that we were raised in.
yeah,
And my mom is the matriarch of the family, so she's the oldest sibling now.
yeah,
But I think we've got a great uncle that we need to get introduced to and show our respect before he goes. And then she's head of the family. But it's more like this is your older sister abroad
mm,
raising her kids. We're expecting great things from them.
yeah,
So where's the results kind of thing? So for me as the oldest male in the family,
yeah,
my responsibility is to, well, not my responsibility. The responsibility I chose to take on was to show some results for my mom's sacrifice and what she did for us. So it's like
mm,
she saw a better opportunity for her kids. She brought us over, went to school, raised us,
yeah,
and now we need to reconnect with the family and then show what those fruits have borne, I guess.
yeah,
So my plans have been based around how to develop that area that we're from,
mhm,
how to protect it, and then how to raise the education levels around there. So they're
yeah,
more likely to protect what they built, is what I'm trying to get at.
absolutely.
So that, as well as my life in Australia, my relationships with my friends, my family, my partner, and then go from there. So it's just like everything that I was going through on canvas, reevaluate, and then
Yeah,
see how to fix it.
sure. Um, the part where you said you're trying to protect that area you grew up in and educate people on it. Tell us more about.
Yeah. It's more so to do with how the developing world sees my area.
Mhm.
We're rich in natural resources. We're not as educated on what the values are, and we're greedy at times. So it's easy to manipulate and get what you want out of that area. So how do I protect that ecosystem as well as educate people around it
Yeah.
to not be swayed by these temptations? It's like they don't experience this on a daily basis.
Mm.
So if they see a dollar amount that they've never and won't see in their life again, they'll take it.
Yes.
And then what are you left with? Absolute destruction of where you're from. So it's a yeah, it's a trip that I'm taking one step at a time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, and Tony, how do you see again, now please feel free to not answer these questions if they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a habit of asking just really honest things, questions that I'm curious about. How do you see yourself protecting the area, and like, yeah, what's your ultimate vision is protection, but the steps towards it?
First of all, sorry, the males in my culture, even though it's matriarchal, they are the sole inheritance for the tribe, for their names. So
Yeah.
we're entitled to land, we're entitled to most everything that is given to us or is part of that environment. So I've recently been allowed my inheritance from the family, and that's what that trip was also about. So me going back, registering everything under my name, under my brother's name, getting it under records in the government, so it's belongs to someone that can
Sure.
protect that area in the Western culture.
Yeah.
So getting back, reconnecting, registering everything under my name, getting everything under the books, and then educating them as well as myself on what the next steps are going to be. So without getting boots on the ground, I can't really do much in the way of those steps. So right now it's just getting all my paperwork ready for the trip back, as well as getting immunized.
Mm-hmm.
And then once everything opens up, we'll start the project. So this whole gallery show was just like a first step.
Yeah.
So it falls in line with what your program's all about. It was just like the first chapter of what I had to get done before I moved on.
Absolutely.
So
take us, oh wait, before you take us through some of the your pieces and stuff, you mentioned the idea, not the idea, the actual pressure. So for you guys to be performing, for you guys to be showing the fruits of your mum's sacrifice. Tell us a bit about that. Have you felt it your entire life? How is
yes and no, in different stages, but the pressure is more so um, self-acquired, I guess. My mom just wants us to grow up healthy, have kids, just live a normal life. But growing up in a single mother's household as a teenager, your main job you'll figure out early is to grow up. You got to grow up quick. It's like, ooh, there's no one else supporting you. Get out there and start helping. So that was the main pressure that I had growing up. It's like all these other kids can play around. I can have fun with them. My mom wants me to have fun with them, but the reality is no one's there to support you. So get your butt in gear, get your work done, start providing for the family. And especially growing up in a tribal environment, in a foreign country, that makes that family dynamic a lot stronger than usual. So it's I was raised by my sisters, my mom, my aunties, a couple of uncles and that, but it's like the females in my life are the ones that raised and protected me, and so you gotta pay that back. So it's all self-adorned, I guess. They don't expect much from me. They just want me to be happy, but my expectations are different. Like,
no, and that's
I see it as an investment that they've put in me and my brother, and I gotta pay it off.
Yes. No, definitely empathizing there. How
so it's all self. I don't know how to explain it, but I choose to bring that responsibility on. They don't push it on me.
Sure.
It's just
Beautiful. Now take us through your pieces, the story of some of your pieces, if that's yes, okay.
It's, yeah, like I said, I'm not really a painter,
Mm.
um, by the normal sense. Is I just wanted to put something down, and it just happened that I was doing these tribal designs because I was trying to design a tattoo for myself for the sleeves, but I found the basic blueprint of how to do up the patterns, which was red, white, and black. And
Mm.
then once I finished the series, I stepped back and looked at the complete set. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So subconsciously, it represents something for me that I came to a conclusion on, which was it's basically me calling out to my culture, my ancestors, my heritage, and not understanding what these patterns mean or represent. So that was my interpretation of what I remember seeing, what I grew up with,
Mm.
and not quite understanding what they really represent without being um, taught.
Yeah.
So red to me represents heritage, blood, culture.
Yeah.
Um, the tribal design inside represents me and different emotional states that I'm going through while I do those paintings.
Mhm.
And then the geometric shapes of the frame represents the structured environment of Western culture. So the pattern inside is molded by that structure. So I reflect my environment basically, but I still have that calling of my home that I don't really quite understand. So until I get back, this is going to be an ongoing process for me.
Yes. Wow. I'm just trying to process the red, black and white and the tribal pattern sort of encapsulated within the structure of the Western. Wow.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be a rectangle or square, just any shape that the frame is in,
Yeah.
the pattern inside is going to replicate. And then my style developed where I just add on whatever else I felt like putting
Mm.
on and whatever it's going through. So
Yeah.
basic design is the red, white, and black. Yeah.
And with the tribal patterns, are they different? Do they represent different things within the tribe? Tell us a bit about
For not for the tribe, but for me personally, they represent different elements. Like there's certain brush strokes that I do that are more defined, and then there's other ones that I've done which are looser in the way they come out,
yeah.
and it just basically represents like elements to me once the pieces are complete. So it depends on how you view it. Some are softer, some are more bold,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yes. And do you have, so apart from the red, white, and black, do you have other types that you've done, other mediums?
Uh, yeah, they've developed further into more, uh, I guess, colorful pieces
Yeah.
as well as more graphic in nature.
Yeah.
So I'm moving into like the headspace of the Western culture and what influences me in this culture, as well as a study that's ongoing for me as well, which is more to do with panic attacks, which is a piece that I think I showed you the, was it you?
Might be.
Oh, yeah, I'm studying something to do with panic attacks anyway.
Yeah.
So trying to bring it to a visual, um, I guess, piece, so it's easier to explain the concept, and it's still ongoing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why panic attacks?
My partner suffers from anxiety and depression at times,
Yeah.
so it's more to understand. I'm a fixer by nature, so if you if I see something and I can do something about it, I try to help out.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, from a graphic design standpoint and the psychology that I've been learning,
Yeah.
um, we are visual communicators by design. So in this new environment, I know how to communicate what my client needs, what I need,
Yeah.
and how to get it across to the consumer. So understanding that side, as well as where we as human beings naturally happy in, you can make the two connections like, okay, so we're not supposed to be hacking our senses to promote this, and not being educated on that is what usually overloads the senses and triggers panic attacks in this environment. So I was still trying to figure it out and then make a strong enough concept where I can get funding and get the paperwork and data to back it up.
That's amazing. I'm always so sort of curious about how creative people's brains work and how you sort of view and perceive different concepts. I'm quite a language person, and I have to be able to visualize it, but in a different sense. And yeah, for
Yeah,
creatives that I speak to, I'm always blown away by
yeah. Well, creativity is the artist trying to express themselves as well as trying to be understood. So we are communicators in the visual sense or audio sense, whichever field you choose to go down. So it's how can we get a visual representation of what our message is to the people. So that's mainly the issues that I try to keep in mind while I'm designing these things. But most of that, like the panic attack project, is all personal. So I'm still trying to figure it out and connect the dots.
I look forward to it and forward to you.
Yeah, me too.
Stop it. Now, tell me, Tom, is there a particular part, something that I haven't asked you that you've wanted to tell the audience, something that you want people to know, whether it's about art, your culture?
I guess more so to do with the art side of things in Shep, in just regional areas in general. This whole gallery show came about because of an idea or what I've seen around Shep during this lockdown, and also to help the creatives as well. It's like I've throughout the year I did a lot of work with Joe Paul Menswear in the photography side, getting all the stock on their websites and socials. But going back and forth, I looked around in that mall area and there's a ton of empty buildings. It's like no one's shopping anymore, no one's getting into those buildings because it's too expensive for the most part, and they're too busy trying to survive. So it's like these artists are asking for help as well.
Yeah.
And if I can give them a blueprint, hopefully they can pick up on it and go from there. And I wanted to start doing shows around Melbourne as well with the projectors.
Yeah.
And just get into something creative. But the idea behind that is to say, look, there are empty buildings in these prime locations around these small towns, major cities. They're just taking up space, and there's nothing to look at. Like Melbourne started to pick up on it as well.
Yeah.
But get your work in these buildings, showcase them, get the public walking through the spaces, so the real estate agents have something to show off to public.
Yeah.
And you've got a space to put up your work.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't, in a normal, I guess, environment where everything's back to normal, these spaces you can't get into.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're just there. So think outside the box, figure out a way to approach these real estate agents, these owners, and say, look, I've got a shit ton of work that I want to display. Would I be able to use your space, and how can we go about this? So we did that with the Shep real estate agents, and it's like, look, I'd like to throw a gallery show. It's inspired, or it was inspired by this lockdown, and it's coming to an end. So we'd like to put on a show, showcase your building, and it'll only be for a couple of days, and hopefully inspire some people.
Yeah.
So whoever saw the show was meant to see it. Whoever didn't, it wasn't really for that.
Sure.
It's like family, friends, and whoever they thought would appreciate that show. But for the artists, it's like you can get your work out. and get it displayed. And you can create an environment where people can just walk through and enjoy it. Yeah, it's like,
and
as long as you're in there, you can give discussion to your pieces as well.
Yeah. And it sounds like a win-win situation.
It is. It is. It was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Do you feel like there will be so the space in particular that you used for your pop-up art show, is that one that's likely to be used again, do you reckon?
I hope so. But the space I chose was closely related to a bar in Shingo's.
Yeah.
He's got checkered floors over there.
Yeah.
And I saw that and I'm like, this is a good key that ties back to the culture and demographic I wanted to inspire.
Yeah.
So they subconsciously, they've seen that. They don't know where it's from. It's familiar.
Yeah.
But if they walk past and see a show that's similar to or has the same aesthetic as the environment they like, they'll come and see it.
Yeah.
So it was for those kids that showed up at like 1 a.m. for me before we even set up, and I gave them a private viewing.
Yeah.
So that was one of the moments that made my whole weekend. It's like, yeah, this is for you. Thanks for coming. Check it out. Ask me anything.
Yeah. That's amazing. Tell us about your
Oh, sorry. Actually, I think the space was used over the weekend or something. The arts festival had a dance group in there or something.
Oh, that was the space. Yes, Awaken.
That was the same space.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's already been used, which is amazing.
There you go. That's because I saw the live show. I just wasn't sure where it was.
Yeah, no, that was the same building. I was happy to see that being used and that concept being taken on.
Yeah.
It's like that's what it's for. Get in there.
Absolutely. And tell us about your experience of your own art show or exhibition.
Yeah, it was an experience and a half. I think I slept about 6 hours that weekend. But yeah, that whole show was amazing. It blew me away. It did what it needed to do. The kids that came and saw it, that's who I put it on for.
Mm-hmm.
Everything to do with the way it was designed was by design. Like if you felt uncomfortable because the music was too loud, it probably was designed for that. It's like there's a certain age and demographic that I wanted to attract and that they'll feel comfortable in that space.
Yeah.
And because of that kind of distraction or the amount of distractions in that space, it forces you to be closer to the people you're talking to. So you're more engaged. You have to zone out everything that's happening to focus on this person.
Yeah.
So for public, it was a nice show, but for me, it was more a study on how to change this gallery or what to fix in it and study how to create a better show for the people that come and view it. But everything was designed for a certain demographic in mind, and they showed up, and that's what it was for. And it was also like to emulate the environment these paintings were created in. Yeah. So I wanted to show you like the bare bones, the blueprints, nothing professional, nothing clean, just like the rough beginnings from the concept, drawing up, writing up to the finished products. So you know that there's perfection that you don't have to strive for, and there's like shit in between that needs to be addressed. It's like, yeah, this isn't what I started with. This is what happened in the middle.
That's exactly right.
And that's if they picked up on it or not, they saw it. So that's all that matters.
That's it.
And, well, yeah, that's what I had in mind.
Fascinating you talking about it. And did it align with, so you said you were drawn to psychology and you're even studying parts of it. Were they interlinked?
Yes. Yeah. So all that was based around the concept of panic attacks. So distracting you and then studying how you interact in that environment. Personally, it's just something I'm still developing as a concept. So I wanted to see what the practical test or the environment would feel like. Yeah. And it does bring you closer to the people you are trying to talk with.
Yes.
You zone in on certain paintings and areas that you want to discuss, and then you start zoning out distractions, but you're still being bombarded at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like figuring out what's happening in that space, and then what could be a possible result for those issues.
Yeah. Now that you're saying that, I'm thinking back to when I was there, and I was like, yes, that's exactly what was happening. We would hone in a discussion about a particular piece, and then I'd have to go away and go and have a look, and then come back
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
right.
If you really are interested in that piece, you'll zone everything out and focus solely on it, and then you go back and try and share your thoughts, but you're more focused in that environment to whatever task you want to accomplish.
Yeah, that's right. And Tom, what were your key learnings at the end of the exhibition?
There are insanely talented people in Shep that don't have an outlet for themselves, or don't know what direction to take their creativity.
Yeah.
So it's like if we can start educating them on how to just express their internal conflicts, as well as where to direct them and where to display them if they need to.
Yeah.
That'll be key to, I guess, their development in this art field or art in general. So it's basically therapy and how to deal with your emotions as a young person or as an adult, really.
Yeah.
And just finding a healthy outlet.
Oh, I think the internet. Sorry, guys. I think the internet might have dropped out.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Hey, sorry about that. Disconnected.
That's all right. No, you were talking about the healthy outlet bit.
Yeah. So yeah, just finding and identifying what could be a healthy outlet for yourself and your development through these through these rough times. It's like your thoughts are usually insanely loud when you're by yourself, especially in this lockdown. So instead of getting stuck in your head, how do I get it out? How do I share it, or how do I open up and start to address these issues that I'm going through? So it was supposed to give them an outlet for that.
And is that why what your workshop was based on?
Yeah, I wanted the kids to get in there, and like as a child, you're raised around structure. Your parents are telling you what to do. Yeah, your friends are usually telling you what to do. You're like, what do? I get up, I go to school, I eat, I play my games, and you're not really having enough time for yourself to develop into what you want to be. So this technique is basically to not be in love with your work. Have everything you need on hand nearby, so you can get it down on canvas. Just throw whatever colors come to mind, whatever shapes, draw it up, whatever you want to use, hands, whatever comes to mind, just put it down on canvas and just think outside the box. There's no rules to it. You know the basic layout of the technique. Get down and just do it. Get all your thoughts out. So it was to teach them a possible outlet for them to express their emotions.
Sure. And Tom, as we're talking about that structure and how humans, we're so governed by all of these rules and structures in place, even when it appears like it's free flowing or there is freedom, within that freedom there is so much structure, and that's how it's kept contained. When you sort of let loose, did it freak you out? Like, do people go through that when you go, there is no structure and you do what you want?
Yeah, it's if you use it for the right reasons, it's I call it like a rabbit hole effect,
Yeah.
where like the white rabbit's already disappeared down that hole, and you know you're already in there. Where do I go from here?
Yes.
It's like you start seeing little lights in that tunnel, and you're like, okay, let's go explore this area, and you
Yeah.
just do it. So that fear is natural because you don't know what's going to happen.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
But as long as you get it all out on canvas in a healthy manner, and then have the time to actually reevaluate or evaluate what happened and what thoughts went through your mind while you were creating,
Mm.
it'll be a healthy way to reevaluate what's going on in your life. So that's as long as they know the technique, they'll eventually grow into understanding what it's for.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And sort of to wrap up our discussion, has there been anything that I haven't asked you, Tom, that you've been thought about wanting to say, or
No, not really. I really enjoyed having a normal discussion. It's been good just to get what happened out verbally, I guess.
yes, yes,
And not just meditate on what happened.
yeah, no, thank you
But
so much
yeah, no, thank you for this opportunity.
for explaining the process. And the final question, what does a utopic world look like for you?
Uh Utopic world is less hours at work, a balance between work and play,
Yeah,
and an environment that's closely uh, intertwined with nature. So less removed from nature and more,
mm,
yeah, less removed from nature, I guess.
beautiful. Thank you so very much, Tom, for taking the time out for this important conversation.
No worries.
And thanks to all of you guys who will be listening, either watching it or listening to it on podcast. Please feel free to share it widely with whoever may resonate from the discussion. I think different people take different things away from, from such a
Yeah, just yeah, I'd like you to take away the art aspect, just something that's healthy for you to express whatever you're going through, and then just yeah, get it out in a healthy manner.
beautiful. Thank you so much, guys.
Oh.
Recording.